Good morning. This is White Raptor News Ministries. We're in the 8:14 a.m. on a Saturday morning. All praise and glory to the Supreme Spirit of Truth, the Living One, the Author of life, the all you can see and all you cannot see, the visible and invisible, the Master of all things, the one that gives the breath of life, the Spirit of Truth, the perpetual force. Praise to the point of singularity. I'm going to do a real quick reading this morning. I hope everybody's having a pleasant day and that the truth can be upon you so that all of us can wake up from this delusional state that you're living in called the illusion of this world. You are living inside of a computer simulation, and a computer is 666. And this computer simulation that we're living in is causing an illusion, and that is also 666. So, folks, this is a system that we live in. The riddle isn't one man. The riddle is all men. It's a hive of men. You got to understand that. Okay? If you think seriously that one man alone by himself can destroy the world, then you're living the illusion. Okay? One man can't destroy the world. It takes nations to destroy mankind. It's going to take nations of men to do such an awful, horrendous thing. So we're going to jump into this reading here. Chapter 18, which says, David mustered the men who were with him and appointed over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. David sent out his troops, a third under the command of Joab, a third under Joab's brother Abishai and son of Zeruiah, and a third under Ittai the Gittite. The king told the troops, I myself will surely march out with you. But the men said, you must not go out. If you are forced to flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care. But you are worth 10,000 of us. It would be better now for you to give us support from the city. The king answered, I will do whatever seems best to you. So the king stood beside the gate while all his men marched out in units of hundreds and of thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the troops heard the king giving orders concerning Absalom to each of the commanders. David's army marched out of the city to fight Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. There Israel's troops were routed by David's men, and the casualties that day were great, 20,000 men. The battle spread out over the whole countryside, and the forest swallowed up more men that day than the sword. Now remember, we got to go back all the way to Noah coming off of the ark, who was instructed, if any man sheds their brother's blood, then by their brother's hands your blood shall be shed. Now, when this command was given, it was given to Israel, for Israel, meaning don't kill your brothers. Okay? Now, clearly, this God of Israel is all right with Israel killing the Gentile, and I will say that the Gentile have put to death many of God's chosen children. So this is a perpetual war that is taking place on this plane of existence. It's why an order was given from the Supreme Spirit not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because when you eat from it that day, look, your children die, you die, we all die. So was God lying? Did you die that day? Spiritually, you died that day. Did your flesh die that day? No, your flesh didn't die that day, but you are the walking dead. Your flesh will die. Okay? You are a walking death. All of us are on this plane of existence. You have to swallow that pill to understand what's being said. Now, Absalom happened to meet David's men. He was riding his mule, and as the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak, Absalom's hair got caught in the tree. He was left hanging in midair, while the mule he was riding kept on going. When one of the men saw what had happened, he told Joab, "I just saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree." Joab said to the men who had told him this, "What? You saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right there? Then I would have had to give him 10 shekels of silver and a warrior's belt." But the man replied, "Even if 1,000 shekels were weighed out into my hands, I would not lay a hand on the king's son. In our hearing, the king commanded us and Abishai and Ittai protect the young man Absalom for my sake. And if I had put my life in jeopardy, and nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me." Joab said, "I'm not going to wait like this for you." So he took 3 javelins in his hand and plunged them into Absalom's heart while Absalom was still alive in the oak tree. And 10 of Joab's armored bearers surrounded Absalom, struck him, and killed him. How do you think the king's going to receive that? Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped pursuing Israel, for Joab halted them. They took Absalom, threw him in a big pit in the forest, and piled up a large heap of rocks over him. Meanwhile, all the Israelites fled to their homes. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in the king's valley as a monument to himself, for he thought, "I have no sons to carry on my memory of my name." He named the pillar after himself and is called Absalom's monument to this day. David mourns. Now Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, "Let me run and take the news to the king that the Lord has vindicated him by delivering him from the hands of his enemy." "You are not the one to take the news today," Joab told him. "You may take the news another time, but you must not do so today, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to a Cushite, "Go tell the king what you have seen." The Cushite bowed down before Joab and ran off. Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, again said to Joab, Come, what may, please let us run behind the Cushite." But Joab replied, "My son, why do you want to go? You don't have any news that will bring you a reward." He said, "Come, what may, I want to run." So Joab said, "Run." Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. While David was sitting between the inner and outer gates, the watchman went up to the roof of the gateway by the wall. As he looked out, he saw a man running alone. The watchman called out to the king and reported it. The watchmen. Who are the watchmen? Watchmen are government officials, our ancient ancestors that are capable of seeing us through portals and looking through mirrors. Looking mirrors. Okay, this is serious technology that I'm talking about. The watchman called out to the king and reported it. The king said, "If he is alone, he must have good news." And the runner came closer and closer. Then the watchman saw another runner, and he called down to the gatekeeper, "Look, another man running alone." The king said, "He must be bringing good news too." The watchman said, "It seems to me that the first one runs like Ahimaaz, son of Zadok." "He's a good man," the king said. "He comes with good news." Then Ahimaaz called out to the king, "All is well." He bowed down before the king with his face to the ground and said, "Praise be to the Lord your God. He has delivered up those who lifted their hands against my lord the king." The king asked, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" Ahimaaz answered, "I saw great confusion just as Joab was about to send the king's servant and me, your servant, but I don't know what it was." The king said, "Stand aside and wait here." So he stepped aside and stood there. Then the Cushite arrived and said, "My lord, the king, hear the good news. The Lord has vindicated you today by delivering you from the hands of all who rose up against you." The king asked the Cushite, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" The Cushite replied, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to harm you be like that young man." The king was shaken. He went up to the room over the gateway and wept. As he went, he said, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son." Right, folks, all praise and glory to the Supreme Spirit of Truth, the living one. Don't be afraid to submit with a contrite heart, a humble heart. In order to find salvation or some kind of connection between you and the Supreme Spirit, you must destroy your ego. You cannot come to the Supreme Creator with any kind of ego at all. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. You have to be a broken soul, humbly before this Supreme Spirit, not before the world, but humble before your Creator. Not creation, but the one that creates and moves all things in place. Blessings to all of you. This is White Raptor News Ministries.